Hello, this is a video on the U.S. Army's 1 and 2 quart canteens. Before we actually get over the canteens, let's go over the history of it first. So prior to the 60s, the U.S. Army used canteens like this with these khaki covers. They were made out of metal, and the Army wanted something that was cheaper to produce, lighter, and didn't rust like these old metal ones did. So in the early 60s, a company decided to make these 1 quart canteens and introduce them to the Army, and they were adopted and known as the M1961 canteens. These canteens are made out of polyethylene, and in September 1962 it was put into Army inventory and extensively tested in Vietnam, and in August of 1965 it was approved by the Army and completely replaced all the metal canteens by 1972. The original M1961 canteen had a cap like this, and then they decided that they needed to be able to make it where you could drink out of it with the M17A1 gas mask and added a cap like this. These canteens also, every now and then, have stoves that come with it that you can put underneath the cup to be able to help cook stuff. You can often find these canteens with black caps because the replacement ones are almost always black. And the canteens themselves usually come in different shades of green. As you can tell, these are not the same type. It also kind of depends on how faded they are. And they also come in black and in tan. The canteens also often come with these metal cups inside of it. You can use these for cooking. Now let's talk about covers. So in the 1960s, when they first made these canteens, they had covers very similar to this, except they did not have this pouch on the side. Now if you're wondering what this pouch is, this holds water purification tablets. Then later on, they did end up adding it to it, as you can see with this type right here. And then later on, they decided to move to these type of canteen covers, which are the more common versions. You can also find interesting canteen covers, such as this one in particular. This one is in a tan cover, and the story behind these, because you can find Alice equipment in tan like this, and these were made for the Saudi Arabian militaries, and that's why they don't have U.S. written on it. Oddly enough, it was almost always Air Force military police who end up getting issued Desert Tan Alice equipment. But when it comes to canteen covers, these were by far the most common tan Alice equipment, and people from all branches use these, however they were not common. You can also find rare cases online where people have found 1 quart canteen covers in either woodland or 6-color desert, and these are very rare, and usually they are made for other countries. For example, I believe that the woodland ones were made for Spain. However, I could be wrong on that. Actually, you can also find 2 quart canteen covers in those weird camo patterns as well, along with plenty of other types of Alice equipment. Then moving on, you end up getting these type of covers. And these ones are the best type of 1 quart canteen covers so far. So they have 2 of these side pouches for water purification tablets. And you can put other things in there too, like lighters. And with these, it has a strap right here, and you can use it as a general purpose pouch, or you can take this, put it like this, tuck this inside, and then use it specifically for the canteen. And it has an adjustable strap right here on it. And you can find these Molly system canteen covers in UCP, OCP, DCU, and Woodland. And on a side note, during the Cold War, and even in modern times when we were using these canteens, the Soviet Union was using these. And our canteens are far superior to the Soviet ones. Ours are lighter, cheaper to produce, and just overall better quality than these metal Soviet ones. Also, whenever you do find canteen covers like this that are in this khaki color, or when they're woodland or 6-color desert, they're almost always made in the late 80s to the early 90s. Now, moving on to the 2 quart collapsible canteen. In February 1962, Army Special Forces requested for a 2 quart collapsible canteen that did not rattle. Several test variations were made, and the first true model was called the Bladder for Canteen Collapsible 2 quart Capacity. Its FSN was 8465J22003. To find it online, I recommend putting in 8465J22. Now for 003, I don't know if that's to help identify each specific one, or if that's for all of them or not. To find it online, I recommend putting in 8465J22. Now for 003, I don't know if that's to help identify each specific one, or if that's for all of them or not. The company that made these original ones was International Latex Corps. The earliest known of these was made in 1962. Now when it comes to these canteens, there has been dozens of companies that have been contracted to make these, and so I could not find the original company responsible for making these. You can always check on the bottom and find the company that made it like that. With this one, it says Zarn on it, and it says US 1983. And with this one, it says US Skillcraft 1997 and A863. Now, later on in Vietnam, they made a better kind. It's known as the second pattern 2-quart collapsible canteen. It was approved in December 1965 and funded in 1967. After evaluations from its use in Vietnam, it was officially adopted on 11th October 1968, and it is this type right here. Now, another thing about these canteens is that while the design is almost always the same, the difference being in the caps, there is something else that also changes from time to time on these canteens. If you look at the bottom, sometimes the design is slightly different. So this one says Made in USA, and it doesn't have a company name, which makes me think this one could possibly be a civilian one. But then you look at these ones, and it tells you the date it was made, and it says US 2009. Then you have to flip it this way to see the company that made it, Skillcraft. Skillcraft, I believe, is the main producer of these. But, let's see. This one says US 1983, and it's made by a different company. And as you can see, that's a different design pattern. And then, let me give you another example of how it can also change. And this time, this one is made from Stonetronics, US 1992. Now let's go over the design of the canteen. So for starters, with the 1-quart canteen, I'm not certain, but I do believe that the reason it's rounded like this is so that way when it's up against your body, it'll kind of curve around your body. And so I believe when you're putting it in the cover, it's supposed to go like this, not like this. However, I could be wrong on that. Next, let's go over this cap. So for starters, this is an older one, so this broke right here. But you're supposed to take this cap and then pop it off, and you're going to have this rubber thing. And you take this, and you put it inside of this canteen, and you click it in there until you get in there good, and you have to use gravity and lift it up like this, and it'll feed into the gas mask, and inside the gas mask is a little hose down in there. I don't know if you can see it or not. Let me see it. Give me a second. This little hose right here, and you suck the water out of that hose. And then on the inside, you have this little rubber piece right here, and that is what feeds the water into that tube. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people think you cannot properly clean the inside of these tubes, and that you should not drink out of these canteens. Instead, you should just buy replacement caps. Well, those replacement caps are still nasty, because they still have not been cleaned themselves either, and it is possible to clean these caps so that way you can be safely drinking out of. What you do is you pop this out. You see there's that. And then what you can do is you take a little tool and you stick it down in there, and there's this little metal piece. You stick that down, and it makes this spring come loose, and it makes this rubber piece come out. And then that way you can get water to come in and out, and you rinse it out really well. And then as far as the tube and the gas mask, honestly, once you get this cleaned, put a bunch of like soapy water in here, and then hook it up through here, and then just rinse it out with a bunch of soapy water, and that way you have a clean gas mask and a clean canteen. Now, thank you for watching, and that is the history and functions of the 1 and 2 quart canteens.